Okay, we'll wait one more minute. Thank you. We should probably have some background music because this is kind of boring to wait with no sound. Just another minute and we'll get started. Thank you again for your patience. I won't sing. Okay. All righty. So let's get a move on because you are all extremely busy. So good evening, good afternoon, everybody. My name is Sabrina Ibanez. For those of you who may not know me, I'm the Secretary General of the FEI. First of all and foremost, thank you very much for having accepted our invitation to attend this session and for the excellent questions that we have received since yesterday, which will be addressed in our presentations today. As I mentioned in the email that was sent to you yesterday, quite frankly, there's a lot of information out there regarding the EHV1 virus, the decisions that the FEI took, the return to competition, and we wanted really to give you the information, if you want, directly from the horse's mouth as what this means from you. And we wanted to take this time because we all want to make sure that we put in place the right processes and that you fully understand what it is that we're asking. So yeah. You know that this is a transition period. Competition will begin as of Monday, which is the 12th of April, and will go on until the 30th of May. Now, the rapid spread of this virus during the month of February was absolutely distressing. I mean, no one wants to see a sick horse, let alone a dying horse. And we had 18, a staggering mountain of 18 fatalities, which is way too much. One horse dead is already way too much. So the FEI, we took the decisions that we thought were the best measures to minimize the further spread of this virus. And that's why we canceled international events in Europe until the 12th of April. This being only really one element in this very complex situation. Now, we are pleased that the situation appears to be stabilized, and we feel confident that if everyone plays their part, we will successfully restart competitions on Monday. We know absolutely that you love your horses and you care for them, but we also need to ensure that the care of other horses within the community. And we know that the virus is endemic, so it's a problem. And that's why it's very important that everyone is part of the solution. And the protocols that we will be presenting to you today are part of that solution. These return to competition protocols have been developed with the input that we received really from these leading epidemiologists, the FEI Veterinarian Committee, the athletes, some grooms, stable managers, discipline chairs, the European Equestrian Federation, and the Equestrian Organizers Club, as well as owners. Are they perfect? Probably not, but they will allow and they will address most and many of the issues and allow you to start competing on the 12th. Our veterinary director, Joran Ackerstrom, and his department have been reaching out to organizers during this past weekend to see what their issues have been. You know, there have been a lot of cancellations, and we are trying to address these in a pragmatic way, but always looking out for the safety of your horses. And yes, we do understand their concerns, and we will continue to reach out to them to see how this whole thing is functioning. So today, during this 1-hour session, we will focus on what you as a rider or as a groom, you really need to know. And so that is really prior to traveling to the event that you've entered, upon the arrival of the event, during the event, when you leave the event, and when you're back in your stables. And Joran Ackerstrom is, again, our veterinary director, is going to take us through these protocols. After that, we'll have Gaspard Dufour, who is our RT director, and he'll explain the important new features that have been included on FEI Horse app. So he'll go through the whole process. After that, we will take questions that are included in the chat. So there's a little bubble there that I'm sure you all know how to use, as you're very technologically savvy people. So if you, so please put your questions in there. And then if we can't do all the questions by in this 1 hour session, please do send them to us via email. Use the same email that was included in that emailer to you, which is usersupport@fei.org, and we will get back to you. Another thing maybe that I can tell you is that the PowerPoint that we will be showing to you today, it will also be published on Inside the FEI in that EHV 1 hub that we've created. So that will be there as well. Another thing that we hope will be helpful for you as well is that we worked on a fact sheet, which all the main points. It's 2 pages. We couldn't put it in one. Sorry about that. And that also will be made available to you in English, but also in French, Spanish, Dutch, German, and Italian. And these translations will be ready on Monday. So that's it for me for the moment. And now I'd like to give the hand to Joran. Joran, the floor is yours.
Mute myself.
Yeah, now I can hear you. And by the way, I just got a question. This is being recorded and will be made available as well. This seminar. Go ahead, Joran. Please start from the beginning because we didn't hear you.
Thank you, Sabrina, and thank you everyone for joining us tonight for this. We're right now in a post-outbreak period. We have no reports of new related cases to those in Spain, but we must also be aware that surveillance and reporting is far from perfect. So we also saw during this outbreak several horses that didn't have any symptoms whatsoever still were shedding a lot of virus. So that's why we need to be extra cautious. We're now moving into a transition period. And for that 7-week period, we have established protocols for safe return. There will be no such thing as a zero risk. EHV has for a long time, for many decades, been around, and it will remain in our horse populations. But working together, we can really minimize the risk. But that is if everyone takes their responsibility, and we will make this work. So we have prepared this PowerPoint for you to explain the major items for you as riders and as grooms. Somehow, let's see, here we go. So we're going to go through prior to traveling to the event, arriving at the event, and then if the horse needs to be put into isolation, measures to be taken when you leave the event, and also when you're back home at your home stable. So prior to traveling to the event. So first of all, you need to monitor and record on a chart the temperature of each of your horses twice daily, morning and evening, 10 days leading up to the event. If you haven't done this for the upcoming week, you need to start doing this immediately. Complete also the FEI Equine Health certification form for each of your horses. And you can find temp chart and this certification form on the EHV hub. If you attend an event with more than 400 horses, you will have to show a negative PCR test, and we have extended that time from 96 to 120 hours because it was very clear that in some countries it would be difficult to provide a result within those 96 hours. So hopefully this will help you. As soon as you have received the negative PCR results for your horses, please upload them to the FEI horse app. So we will see that you have that, and that will also be available for the vets when you arrive at the venue. So you also need to inform the organizing committee when you are estimated to arrive, and this is so they can arrange a really safe and well-organized examination arrival. Some OCs will even give you a time slot to arrive, so they can do this in a proper way. And of course, you need to be ready for the examination arrival. We're sadly aware that this hasn't always been the case with proper examination arrival, but it's seriously the most important examination that is done on any FEI events, because that's really what protects your horses. And it must be an FEI veterinarian doing this. So the examination can either take place in a dedicated and quiet area if there's enough space on the venue, but it's also possible to do this inside the stables following a certain protocol that you also will find on the EHV hub that is also sent to all the OCs. During the examination, make sure that you have the horse passport and the self-certification forms handy, and of course that you're ready to present the PCR results via the horse app also to the vets if they ask for it. And it shouldn't be the vets taking the temp. That should be done by either you or your groom using your own thermometers. Don't let the vets use theirs. It's about biosecurity. If your horse would have a temp of 38.5 or higher, that horse and any other horse traveling on the same truck will be put into isolation. So a horse could have a temp after traveling, we all know that. So it can be retaken at a later stage. And if it goes back to normal, the horse shows no clinical signs, the vet delegate is happy with it, the horse may be allowed together with the other horses on the truck back to the main stables. And this is really important. We are now pushing the OCs hard to only provide you with clean, disinfected, and sealed boxes. And those are the only ones you should accept. This is also important for clean sport, not just biosecurity. So we're asking quite a lot of the OCs actually, and I'm just going to mention a few of the elements. So they need to have a sign off of their biosecurity by the vet delegate. And if they have an event with more than 400 horses, there will also be an on-site visit by a vet that has been approved by us. They have to follow strict examination on arrival protocols. They need to have extended isolation resources. And we're also putting in some limitation in stable size and the stable planning on how close parts of boxes units of boxes can be to each other. And this is to, of course, to protect your horses. And there will be more vet delegates in place as well. When you're at an event, now you have become used to washing your hands and disinfecting them thanks to COVID. And the same thing applies here, the same type of hand washing, but it will be set up in directly at the stable area to protect your horses. Your hands are so important for the spread of this disease, so you need to keep them clean. And also stay in your own stable area. Don't go to the other stable areas. Just stay where you are. And also, if you have access passes into the stables, make sure that you only give them to the people that need them, the groom and the true horse owner. They're not for your friends, it's for the horse owner, and is to minimize the number of people inside the stables. There will also be one-way systems put in place, and these applies for both horses and humans, and of course the dogs on leash. And take tempo of your horse twice a day, record it on a clipboard, and there will be also spot checks of a number of horses at the event to make sure this is properly done. I said it before, control your dog. Dogs are a transmitter of this virus by walking around, and also it's again for clean sport. You need to be in control of your dog, and if you see loose dogs, let the stable manager know. It's completely unacceptable. And a new measure is that horses must not be tagged or untagged in the aisle. Keep your horses inside the boxes when you do that. I know some has a routine to do it on the aisle, and they're used to that, but for now you must not be doing that. And also, many horses like to have their box doors open, but keep those closed now. It's an additional barrier. And if your horse sticks their head out like a meter or so, and you have another horse on the other side of the aisle also sticking their head out, they're getting really close to each other, and that is really not good. So keep them locked up in that way. If your horse need veterinary treatment, that can be done in their own boxes. We advise against using treatment boxes unless really necessary for x-rays, etc. But it must be under the supervision of the vet delegate or someone that has been assigned by the vet delegate. And with testing, we sample those horses in their own boxes, and we're providing the testing vets with either disposable protective gear or washable that they need to change between the horses. So if you're attending an event that takes place over several weeks, your horses will have to be PCR tested on site. And this will be advised by the OC how that is done. It can either be done on Sunday, Monday, or Tuesday. If you have any concerns about biosecurity measures or any related matters to it, get in contact immediately with the veterinary delegate. And we will also be on call from the veterinary department to take any calls to support the vet delegates with advice if they are not sure how to handle the situation. If you need to put a horse into isolation, so any horse presenting a tempo over 38.5 or an in contact of such horses, they may be put into isolation at any time. So if that happens, it's super important that you respect all the measures, such as wearing boot covers, coveralls, etc., because that is really a high risk area. It has to be considered as a high risk area, and people have to behave in that way. And when you walk away from there, you must remove all the protective gear and dispose them according to instructions. And you must not go to another stable area without going through a full cleaning and disinfection process. Ideally, you should go in and take a shower if that is possible. And never ever bring your dog into the isolation area. So isolation areas, they must have individual boxes for single horses, but also for groups of isolation boxes for horses that have been transported together, so we can keep those separate from others. And it's important that the isolation and quarantine area is not in the same stabling area or the same airspace as non-isolated and it must be at least 50 meters away from any movement of horses. And this is regardless if it's indoors or outdoors. An OC may not have enough space to do that on some of the premises. So it's all right if they have external locations within 10 kilometers for overflow isolation. And that could actually be very good. You really want to move, if you have a neurological case, for example, you really want to move it off the venue, and especially into our isolation unit at a hospital. But even if you don't have sick horses, in really sick horses, it's good to be able to move them away, and these external locations would allow for that. So when you leave the event, Gaspar will show you shortly on how to use the horse app, and we will ask also the OCs to work with those so they can check you out at the show office. And this is because we want to know where your horses are. Even if everything is fine when you leave the venue, a few days later we may have a case and your horse may have been affected, and we need to know where your horse have been and where it is, so we can protect your horses, get in touch with you, but also to protect other horses along the way and in your home stable, of course. So this checkup does not replace the required health certificate that you must have from the veterinary authority in order to move over to another country, like the 10-day certification. So that's another part. It does not replace that one. When you're back at home, if your horse would develop any infectious disease within 14 days, inform your NF and also us. We need to know that. It's about managing the risks and see if we need to follow up on any cases at an event, etc. Again, it's all to protect your horses and everyone else's horses. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Joran. So we will now go and hand over the floor to Gaspar. Gaspar?
Yeah, thank you very much, Sabrina. So I will share my screen again and be able to present you what we have developed for you as athletes in Groom into an app that we have already for some years available, which is named FEI Horse App. Some of you as athletes may have already used this app to provide us with copy of your horse passport. So that's the same app. We have, just in the context of this return to competition, added new module in this app. Some of the modules are dedicated to you as athlete or groom. There is, as mentioned by Johan, there is some module for the organizers. There is also a module for the vet for the examination at arrival. But for tonight's presentation, we will just look at the module which are dedicated to you as an athlete or as a groom, and that you may have to use in the future in order to attend an FEI event. So there is two modules we will highlight today. The first one is to upload the PCR test result, as it was mentioned already before. And the second one is a horse check-in module, and we will see later on what exactly is the purpose of this specific module. But let's start with the upload of PCR test result. And yeah, if the screen is not black, of course, it will be easier. So yeah, we are back. So before really diving in this module, as I said before, you need to have this FEI Horse app installed in your smartphone. Of course, it's available on both iPhones or iOS and Android phones. You can very easily find it from the store. So if you have not installed it yet, please simply go to the store, install the app as you usually do when you install a new app on your device. And then you will have to look at your FEI ID, because in order to use this app, you have to be connected. You cannot do anything if you are not connected in the app. So you have to be recognized either as an athlete or as a groom. So how to be recognized? Basically, if you are an athlete, you already have an FEI ID number. That's your kind of your license number that allow us to recognize you. So you just need to look for your number. If you don't know it, you can very easily do that from the FEI website. If you already are using your FEI account using your ID number, just log in into the app and you are good to go. And if it's the first time you are trying to use your FEI ID to interact with the FEI and to use FEI services, there is on the home page of the app, as you can see at the very bottom, it's a bit small, but there is a link where it's mentioned, don't have an account, create one. So you just have to click here and follow the procedure and your account will be created and activated. Then we have also given now the possibility to grooms to access the app, because groom may be the right person typically to upload this PCR test results. So grooms, they don't have any FEI ID numbers at the moment. So we have created a dedicated web page for groom self-registration. So this page is available as of today. As Sabrina mentioned at the beginning, we will publish this PowerPoint, so you will have access to the link to that page in order for your groom to create the account. So I really encourage you also to share this information around you with the other groom and athletes that you know, in order for a maximum of people to create account and to be able to use the FEI Horse app when it's needed. So when you have an account and when you are connected, you can start using the application. So let's come back to this upload of PCR test results. So one important thing to keep in mind, the upload of PCR result is compulsory only for events which are planned to welcome more than 400 horses. So how can you know which events are they? That's again published on the FEI website in the EHV 1 hub. You have a link to a list of events that are concerned by this measure. So it's only when you are attending an event where it's planned to have more than 400 horses that you need to provide a PCR test. And to be clear and transparent with you, at the moment for the first 2 weeks of restart of competitions, it only concerns jumping events. So there is no dressage, eventing or endurance events concerned by that measure for the first 2 weeks of competition. Doesn't mean they won't be in the future, but at the moment, it's only jumping events concerned by that measure for the first 2 weeks. So how does it work? When you are logged in, you will be on that page. And that page is just a page for you to search for your horse or for your horses. You have 2 ways to search for a horse. You can either search by typing name or FEI ID, or if you have the passport, the FEI passport or the FEI recognition card of your horse with you, you can also scan the barcode. There is a barcode on the front page of this document, and you can also scan this barcode to search for your horse. Here in the example, I will use the search by name. So typically in that case, you type at the top of the screen avatar, and you are able to see all the horses named avatar or avatar something. Then you select your horse. In that case, I've selected avatar des Félines. And you move to a new screen, which is kind of a summary screen for that specific horse, avatar des Félines in that example. You have a couple of options available, as you can see. And one of the options is EHV 1 PCR test. So you simply click on that option. You move again to another screen where you can see that you have a link to upload a new EHV 1 PCR test. One important thing, you will have to upload a PCR test every time you attend an event with potentially more than 400 horses. So if from 1 week to another, you move from one event to another, you have, of course, to retest your horse and potentially to upload a new test. And you will see in that screen as well in the future the history of all the tests you have already uploaded. But let's upload the first one. You just click here on upload a new test. Then you, as many other applications, you have the choice between taking a photo or just using a file which is already in your smartphone. So you select the appropriate option, and then you will see the file that you have either the picture you have taken or the file you have chosen will be displayed as a preview. So it's just a preview at the moment because you have an extra step to do, which is very important for us. You need to enter the date and the time of the sampling. So not the date and the time you have received the results, but the date and the time the horse has been tested or sampled, because that will be also the reference to know if the test has been done in time. So you enter that date and time also in the application in this appropriate field, and then you are good to go. You just have to click on the submit button, and the test is sent to the FEI associated to your horse profile. And as a result of that, and why it's so important, the test will be stored on our side in our database. And when the vet on site will perform the examination at arrival for your horse, it will scan the microchip of your horse, and this will be connected to the app. It will open the record of your horse, and the vet will immediately be able to see that you have provided a PCR test. And that's really the key process to save time for vets when they are performing examination at arrival, and to avoid for them to have to review your PCR test at that time, because it really creates a lengthy process if they have to do all this paperwork when they are checking your horse. So yeah, never forget to upload your test before moving to the event, or when you are moving. If you receive the test during your travel, you can still upload it. You always have your smartphone with you, so simply upload the file, and then you are good to go. So that's for the PCR test upload. Then there is a second feature that I mentioned at the beginning, which is the horse check-in. And what this feature is, it's a feature that you have to use only if the FEI declare a new outbreak. So if we are unfortunately again in a situation where there is a spread of a virus and an outbreak has been declared, now the FEI has the right to ask you to inform us about the specific location or localization of your horse. And the goal is to do that using the app, because it allows us to centralize everything and to have a clear picture of where horses are. So this has to be used again only if a new outbreak is declared, and of course you will be made aware of it through social media via the organizer if you are at an event. So as you know, there is many ways for us to inform you about this potential situation. Of course, hoping it will not happen anymore. But if it happens, you will have to use the app to just declare the localization of your horse. So again, you will be back to the same page. You search for your horse. You select your horse from the list. I'm taking the same one. And you are back to that screen where you have a couple of different options. And one of the options is this horse check-in. You simply click on that. You will have a prompt like this asking you if you are currently at an FEI event or not. If you answer yes, it will offer you the list of events currently happening. You just select your event. And if you answer no, because you are traveling back home or traveling to an event, or you are just already back at home stables, you simply answer no. And that's it. The check-in is done. Nothing more, very quick. Really, it will take you less than a minute to do it, and it will allow us to have a clear picture of the localization of every single horses, and potentially to be, let's say, able to block less horses in case of a further outbreak if we know that your horses is already back at stables and is not impacted potentially by a new spread of virus. So that's it for the two features that are now available for you via the FEI Horse app. Again, it's available. You simply have to download the app, and you will have access to those features. So thanks, and back to Sabrina.
Thank you, Gaspar. I have a question for you regarding the horse app. Will the horse app notify riders beforehand whether the event that they are entered in will have more than 400 horses?
Not yet, not yet. That's something we may be developing in the future, but due to the short timing to develop those module in order to be ready for next week, that's not yet available, but we are definitely considering to do that in the near future.
Okay, but we will be listing, as you mentioned, in that hub, those events that have 400 or more horses.
Exactly.
And that includes also horses that are not necessarily international, but that are national as well, that may be just residing there.
Absolutely.
Okay, that's very important to know. So maybe if you allow me, I will just go through some of the questions that we received. And in the meantime, if riders, grooms have any further questions, we can go ahead and address those as well. So, okay, here is one question that we received. If one horse tests positive before leaving home, their stables, are all other horses that test negative, can they still travel to the event? Jorn?
Thank you, Sabrina. So if a horse tests positive at home, the others must not leave for the competition. There's no way you then could actually sign the self-declaration truthfully. And it's really important that you take this responsibility. It's not just about your horses, it's about that event, all the horses at that event, and possibly also horses during stopovers. So it's really important that you actually stay at home then. It's sad, but it is what it is.
Thank you. And you might as well stay there where you are. Here's another one. If there's a positive result in a stable with several riders, can none of them attend a show for a certain time?
Yes, that would be the case. And there are various methods of clearing those horses. And we will early next week provide, with help of our epidemiologists, the various alternatives as guidelines for your vets so they can use to clear horses, because there's no need to wait like 3 weeks or anything like that. There are methods of clearing them earlier, but it will require some testing, and also that you separate the other horses from that one that tested positive. But it will be very clear to you during next week, early next week.
Thank you, Jorn. Then another question that we have regarding the vet check. Do the horses have to do vet check directly from the truck, or if they're showing normal temperatures, or can they enter the stables before the vet check? I know we mentioned that already, but maybe it's good for you to highlight it again.
Yeah, so there are two versions of doing this. One is that you have examination on arrival outside the secured stable area, and it's planned, it's spaced enough, it's staffed enough, so horses don't come into close contact with other horses. And this could actually take place at an external location. Some of you may have been in Gothenburg at couple at big events, and they will have examination on arrival at the nearby race course. And that is perfectly fine as long as it's well planned and safe. Some venues will not have this possibility. So instead, they can be unloaded from the transport, and examination on arrival, including the temp taking, can be conducted in the horse own stable. But there's a special flow chart protocol for that. You can also find that one in the EHV hub, in the download. And I think it's really good, especially for those grooms traveling alone. And you should also ask the organizing committee what method they are applying. So there are two versions of this, but most importantly, you need to be safe when you're doing this, because temp taking on horses after traveling can be really dangerous. We all know that. It's also about your own safety. So study this carefully and listen to the instructions, and this will work just fine. Thank you.
Thank you, Jorn. Then we have another question which has been already addressed in the presentations, but could tests be taken more than 96 hours before the event, which is what we had initially communicated. And now, as you mentioned, it is 120 hours before to make it a more pragmatic solution for everybody.
That's correct. And also, there are new labs being added to the list of labs that we recommend and accept results from to that list, and it's more or less uploaded new labs every day. So have a look at that, advise your vet to look at that list, and they will find labs that will provide samples within those 120 hours that we require.
Thank you, Jorn. Now this comes to a legal question, and this is for Mikael. If we need to cancel, we as a rider need to cancel due to a positive result, is the OC still allowed to send us the bill for this cancellation?
Thank you, Sabrina, for the question. It's actually a very valid question, and we didn't think about it initially when we drafted the bylaws and the protocols or measures. And currently, the general regulations say that the organizer is entitled to charge fees, but of course, we don't want this to apply. So we want the athletes to not incur any financial penalties. So what we are suggesting that we will amend the bylaws to clarify this and to put it in writing so that it's clear that the organizer will not charge any fees to the athlete who has unfortunately to cancel due to the positive findings.
And naturally, we will need to talk to the organizers as well before we put anything forward to the board. So, but yes, we have to start working on that next week. So thank you very much for that, Mikael. Okay, who's responsible for uploading the temperature taking on the horses on the FEI horse app? I think that has already been addressed. I don't think we really need to say that again. Then we have a question regarding endurance. Will a PCR test be mandatory for the FEI World Endurance Championships in Pisa in May? Again, as was highlighted by Joran and Gaspar, this PCR testing is only for those events that are 400 and more, and there will not be 400 horses in Pisa normally. So it will not be mandatory. Okay. So are there any other questions that any other athlete has at this? Oh, yes, you want to say something, Joran? Go ahead.
We have actually received a new question, and that is whether can horses participate when they are not vaccinated? I assume that is vaccinated against EHV. When it comes to equine influenza, you all know that they must be vaccinated according to our rules. But when it comes to EHV, it's not a requirement. And horses that are unvaccinated against EHV can absolutely participate. We have as an option to the OCs told them that they can provide horses that are vaccinated with a special stable area if that is possible for them, and so the riders have a choice, but it's optional. It's nothing mandatory. But the bottom line, yes, unvaccinated against EHV can participate.
Okay. Any further questions, or does maybe staff members want to clarify anything else that you think we should have highlighted more at this point? Maybe I just wanted to tell you also that what we're going to do is we're going to, for all those that we sent this email or yesterday, we will provide you the information as to where all this information is on the hub. You should have it already, but and that the PowerPoint will be uploaded. Please tell your friends, your colleagues, other riders about the session and about the information, so that those that did not join us today can really get the information firsthand. But Joran, you were going to say something. Sorry.
I have 3 items I would like to address with the riders. And one thing is that traveling long distances with the horses increases the risk for this virus to to start causing sickness with a horse. So avoid long distance traveling because it is an increased risk. The same thing also goes with traveling with young horses, 5 and 6-year-old horses. I know there are some 5 and 6-year-old horses that travel really well, but generally, if you can avoid that, please do it. It's not the time now to do it. Be careful with your horses. With many of the really sick and also dead horses in Valencia were actually young horses, and they were well vaccinated and not protected. So keep that in mind, please. And finally, I would like to say that it's really important now, of course, that we keep our horses safe and healthy. But we also need to be aware that it's not just about us right now and here in this situation. It's also the authorities watching what we're doing. And it's already been steps taken towards a possible legislation on this disease. And I think some of you can imagine the difficulties if veterinary government authorities would get involved in this with the restrictions that would be put upon our sports in moving horses. In many cases, these veterinary authorities, they would have the regulations, but they wouldn't have the resources and knowledge how to handle it. So we all must be very, very careful to make sure that we follow these rules now because they are watching us. If we do this good, we can remain and have actually the unique opportunities that we have to move horses compared to any other species, such as cows, pigs. I know that sounds weird to compare horses with cows and pigs, but in the legislation, we have a really nice fast lane compared to all these others. And if we don't behave, they might start closing those fast lanes for us. So please be responsible and we will be able to continue developing the sport. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you for bringing up that really important point, Joran. We have a question on the chat from Julia Otto. It says she checked on the FEI horse app if my horse has all the features shown in the presentations, but my horse is missing features such as check-in, check-out. How is this possible? So, Gaspar?
Yeah, good question. I was a bit too fast saying everything is available. Check-in, check-out will be available on Tuesday, next week only. They have been only tested today because really we have been developing those stuff within the last 3 weeks, so it took some time. So sorry, I was a bit too fast saying it's available. It will be available next Tuesday. You will have an update for your app available and you will find those features.
Thank you, Gaspar. Okay, any further questions? Awkward silence. Yes, Joran?
Through Victoria, I have received a number of questions on the WhatsApp. So one is, are all these measures necessary if horses are vaccinated? Well, first of all, all horses are not vaccinated. Secondly, there's not vaccine available in Europe to vaccinate all horses. And third, many of the horses, I would say most likely majority of the sick horses in Valencia were vaccinated. And we're conducting a study. We already have more than 70 horses, the very, very small details on those horses, how they were vaccinated, how they got sick, what kind of treatment they received and so on. And one thing's for sure, the vaccinations didn't protect those horses. In the future, we hope that there will be good enough vaccines. We hope that there will be enough vaccines so all horses can be vaccinated, because since there are no vaccines that protect against their neurological form, you need to have almost all horses, not just at the FEI event, but also ideally in your home stable in order to make sure that virus is not spread from one single horse. And that will enable us in the future to have good biosecurity and lower the risks. But so far, there's no vaccine available anywhere in the world that would protects directly against the neurological form.
We have other questions here, though, too.
Thank you.
Okay, so thanks for that. There's still more to come. So one is, are we allowed to use every lab or only the labs on the FEI site? And if we do use the other labs, will these results be accepted?
So, if, of course, you have the labs on the FEI list, but you also have, if you have a national veterinary laboratory, you may use that one, or even if it's not listed. And also, if a lab has an accredited method according to ISO 17025. Any lab with that ISO accreditation for EHV1 can be used. And I would say most of the labs that are listed would have that ISO accreditation, but it's if you want to add new ones, that is fine. You can also ask your national head veterinarian to recommend a lab and to let that national head veterinarian inform us about the lab. We have received from many countries lists of labs, but not all countries have submitted. And if you put pressure on your national head vet to do that, that will be really helpful for us and also for you. Thank you.
Thank you, Joran. Okay. Just, I don't see anything coming in on my side here yet, nor in the chat, but I'd like to just give everybody.
There is a couple of others in the question and answer, because there is two sections. There is a chat and the question and answers. So we have got a couple of other questions. One is from Maya Hack. For one-day events with no stabling, how is the vet check performed?
Thank you. So you would have, if there's no stabling, you will have, it's a normal procedure for those horses, according to the FEI regulations. I hope that answers the question. And another thing, there should always be examination on arrival, but we don't mandate it this carefully for those shows. The risks without stabling are so much lower.
Then we still have another one. Is a PCR test mandatory for smaller events like Sint-Truiden dressage next week with less than 400 horses? So I think I can answer that one. So it's not mandatory. It's only for 400 and more horses. And again, the list is already available on the FEI website on the EHV1 hub. And as I said also, it at the moment for the next 2 weeks only concern some jumping events.
There's one comment here that was received regarding when you discussed the cancellation fee due to the virus. They ask us to consider the stables that have more than one rider that has to cancel. This person has one stable with more than 4 riders going to different shows. What about the other shows? So I don't think we require an answer to this right now, but it's something that we need to consider. Okay.
We'll take that point.
Okay. There's all these different questions coming from different channels. I just don't want to miss anybody. Okay, to Gaspar, can a groom use the athlete's ID to log in, or must he or she create their own?
So yeah, we definitely recommend to create their own. It's just when you use a personal account, it's always better to use your own account instead of using the account of someone else. But that's really a general recommendation, whatever you do. So we definitely recommend that Groom create their own ID. As I said, we have set up a very simple Groom self-registration page. The link is also available from the EHV 1 hub, and it's really quick for Groom. 1 minute it will be done, and the Groom will have his account. So we really recommend that.
Thank you, Gaspar. Just checking. Okay. Yeah. So just to confirm, this meeting has been recorded, and it will be uploaded. And we will also upload the PowerPoint presentations, and we'll have those fact sheets available for you all in different languages, but that will only happen early next week as we need to translate them. And yeah. And don't forget that if you have any further questions, to please send them to usersupport@fei.org. It's the same email, the same address was included in that email that we sent to you yesterday. And yeah.
Yeah, we are still getting, as we have still 3 minutes in our time in theory, we get one a couple of times. I repeated it. It's no fee if PCR test of the horse is positive. How about positive corona test of athlete or groom? So this one I don't have the answer. So it's probably for Michael to answer.
Yeah, thank you for that question. To be honest, at the moment, the bylaws that have been developed and the measures are for EHV1. So for COVID, we don't have such a strong legal means. So I think that's something that will need to be addressed separately with the FEI board because currently the general regulations would apply, but it's a good question because in my view, it would be perceived as a valid excuse for the athlete not being able to go to an event. But we'll do a consultation with the organizers and raise it with the FEI board to take the appropriate measures and legal means.
Thank you for that, Michael. Gaspar, have you received anything, or Joran? Don't want to rush this, just want to make sure we get these questions. And again, you have 2 more minutes. Okay. Well, then thank you. Thank you. I hope, and we hope that this session has been helpful. And we really thank you for being here with us tonight and asking us these questions. And we hope that if you just reach out to us, if you're not certain, just send your questions to us, and we will do our utmost to answer them and provide you with the correct information. So a huge thank you again. Good luck in your events next week and the following week. As I mentioned earlier in my introduction, we will be discussing also with the organizers. We need to see how this whole thing works out next week as well. But we're confident that, again, if everybody plays their part, we'll be all right. So thanks. Have a lovely evening, and take good care of yourselves and obviously of your horses. Bye-bye.